Yeah, I'm here with Tommy Moreo, glow-in-the-dark UV specialist, amazing artist. I have the ticker on the screen right now, but I'm fairly positive nobody wants to see my face. The last two times, this is what's been happening. Split screen, there's Tommy right now. Yeah, so you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Hey, what's up, guys? Thomas Marrero here from New York, living in Kansas City right now. That's where I'm based out of. Looking forward to get to know every one of you, and I appreciate everyone's support.
Oh yeah. So Tommy, the way I found Tommy was my buddy Call is really into pins and artwork. He showed me some of Tommy's pins. One of my favorite designs was his Shaman Queen. So when I met up with him, he actually, there it is. That's crazy. So yeah, he is very prepared and I love it. Yeah, that's pretty much my favorite design. He gave it to me in a wood. What would you call that? Like wood etched?
Oh, the like the wood plaque
Yeah,
or the late engraved.
yeah,
I love those.
yeah. So he makes all this amazing artwork. He does it on various different mediums, as you can tell. Yeah, his logo's on the back. He has artist proofs. He has limited editions. Everything else. You can grab everything on his big cartel, which I will pull up right this second. There he is on the screen just by himself. And here's the big cartel. Actually, that is not the big cartel. This is the big cartel. And so basically on this big cartel, there's his pre-sale for his new pin. It's his self-portrait. That's what's actually on the live stream to the right under the on-air. It's basically I turned his self-portrait into his graphic. So everything pretty much connects right now. Do you want to give any insight on your self-portrait, like the pins, the pre-sale, what went into making it, what made you want to make it?
Yeah, I wanted to do something different. A lot of people were asking me to do a self-portrait. So I would say about a year ago is when I knocked it out. I wanted to do something not necessarily of just me, like me smiling like, eh. I wanted to do something more designed towards my pseudonym, Rumin8, which is just like the word ruminate, to think about deeply, to really make you curious about the steps, what all goes into the creation of my artworks. Tons of layers, tons of things that you'll see. You'll look at a piece of artwork one day, and then a month later, 2 months later, a year later, sometimes you'll find different things that you didn't realize were in it. That's kind of what started the idea for why I wanted this pose, I would say.
Wow.
Just something deep in thought.
And is that one epoxy covered as well?
Yeah, this one is epoxy coated, UV reactive.
Damn.
And 20 by 20.
How much would you charge for something like that?
For the 20 by 20, it kind of just all depends on how many hours get spent on the project. Sometimes I'll grind it out for 36 hours straight, it'll be done, but then sometimes it takes me a couple weeks, months, heck, even some years to finish a piece. So it all kind of depends on a per canvas basis, but for like that one, I would say I would charge around $280 to $320 for a 20 by 20.
Wow. And what made you decide to want to get into like the UV and the glow stuff?
I guess I've always just been really fascinated with how artwork pops out in UV reactive light. Heck, I used to be big in the nightclub scene here in Kansas City. I was a promoter. I owned Win and Love Dance Entertainment, and I used to host a lot of different events at the nightclubs where I would incorporate black lights, so you could do like like glow nights where you're body painting, different things like that. And before I even started working on canvas, I was having, people over hanging out at the crib with just doing, drawing at each other with highlighters, because that it's UV reactive. That's kind of where it all started, just being goofy. And then eventually when I started getting the urge to start creating and pursuing artwork as a career, that's when I really started thinking of what I needed to do to incorporate that UV reactive outlook into my artwork and provide more than just plain Jane, right off the shelf type of canvas. Wanted to make something that was kind of like a journey. When you bought it, you got to stare at it for a while, then you turn on the UV lights, it completely changes the outlook of the aspect of the creation. And it really gives you more of an adventure rather than just a one-time purchase, throw it up on the wall and never think about it again.
Yep. So basically, it's an added layer that allows people to see your art from a different perspective, and actually more than one perspective, I guess.
Yes.
And that's what you're saying? Oh, I'm sorry for cutting you off.
No, the process gets pretty thorough. It's pretty much like creating two different paintings at once, and when I incorporate the glow-in-the-dark mediums as phosphorescent paint on top of that, it's like creating three different paintings in one. So the process gets lengthy, it takes a lot of hours, but it's always worth it in the end.
And do you find yourself, when you're doing the other layers and like the UV or the glow on top of like what you first started on the canvas, do you know when it's becoming like the other layers? Like, is it because basically when I'm doing Photoshop or something, you have one layer, then you can make a layer on top of it, opaque, etc. Is it the same thing that you are doing while you're painting?
It's always different with every canvas. When I'm thinking about what I'm about to create, sometimes if it's like, if I'm using a model reference or if I'm doing somewhat of a portrait, I usually start on a bare canvas with pencil, sketch out the female or sketch out whatever my subject focus is going to be, and then I start adding layers from there. Usually the glow-in-the-dark layer comes at the end, because it has the most texture. It's the thickest compound as far as the medium I use. And then for that reason, going back and putting details in it with like a paint marker becomes more and more difficult with the more textured layers you have on top. So I usually save the glow-in-the-dark mediums for last and incorporate the metallics, like the reflective mediums, along with the fluorescent mediums, which is what gives you the UV effect throughout the middle, beginning and middle of the piece, and then add the glow in last.
That's amazing. So yeah, it sounds like an arduous process, to be honest.
Yeah, it's taken a while to kind of perfect my layers, and like I said, it's different every time. Every time I want to create a different subject focus, whether it be something comic, something like an animal, something very intricate like my funhouse design, where I'm having to actually get in with a ruler to make sure the lines are straight, matching up. This is a wood laser engraved plaque that we have going right now with I am collaborating with David Alterac, who made these for me, and I'm embellishing them on top of that with acrylics and inks to kind of bring out that effect and keep it going.
And how much would something like that go for?
We're not sure yet. Obviously, it's a collaboration, so we're not completely sure as far as what we should charge for it. This first one, we're probably gonna do an auction for and just kind of gauge what the price should be from there.
And would you be auctioning that on your group page?
Yeah, that'll be in the group. That's typically where I do all my auctions, all of the waffle poster giveaways. That all goes down in Ruminating Phantasms.
Okay, I'm gonna pull up the Ruminating Phantasms group right now, and basically if you join the group, like join right here, I mean I already joined it, you want your notifications to be on. If you can follow the group, follow it as well, and it's gonna basically, if you're interested in any of the artwork that Tommy is showing right now, most if not all of it will show up inside of that group and you can dibs it. Basically, say, hey, comment dibs. That means you guys can negotiate a deal, figure it out, and you can get it sent to you. And that's the easiest way to gain access to him and his art. So right here, Ruminating Phantasms. It's a closed group. Hit join. Explain where you're coming from, and I'm sure Todd would be fine with letting me in.
Yeah, for sure.
How did you get into this whole art thing? Where did you start?
I guess it goes all the way back down as a kid. My mother was very creative. She's where I got my artistic flair from, I guess. She had me trying. She loved coloring herself, and she loved collecting comic books. So from there, as a child, I'd bug her enough that she wouldn't let me go through those mint condition comic books, but she'd let me look at the cover and then use that cover to kind of draw and reference to make my own creation from there. So that's where I started sketching. Her cousin, around the age of around 5, I would say, he was a really talented street artist in the Bronx of New York, and up and coming artist. And he came by one night and he brought a couple of his pieces, a couple of his sketches, a couple photos of what had got him into it, along with sharing some techniques with me. And that kind of just started the fire. Which later on, I pretty much, art was non-existent in my life from, I would say, middle school on throughout the rest of my adult life until about 26. Around 26, which was about 4 years ago, I started just getting the urge to create. I was making good money. I was content with my, corporate USA day job, but it wasn't the reason I wanted to wake up every morning and be excited to, start the day off. So just randomly started getting the urge to start creating again. And then from there, folks on Facebook started encouraging me to, pursue that, do more of that. And I said, what the hell, let's try a canvas. After the first canvas sold, I was like, this is a good possibility here. So I pretty much the next month I quit my day job, survived off of 4 months of unemployment, and haven't looked back since.
And what would you say to people who have the same thoughts but haven't made the plunge yet?
I would say to just have some confidence in yourself. At the end of the day, there's always going to be doubts. There's always going to be things you're self-conscious about, you're not sure about, you're not sure if you know enough to really make the plunge. And at the end of the day, it takes you to really focus on what you really want from your life. Like, what's your passion? What do you see yourself doing for the rest of your life that you're going to be happy with, that you'll be able to build a family with, or, provide for yourself and really make a career out of, and then figure out the steps of what it's going to take to get there. So in my case, I knew I had to build a fan base. I had to build my knowledge first and foremost. I had to pretty much put all that I had into learning whatever it was going to take to become skilled in the craft. And then from there, it was just trial and error, figuring out what works, what doesn't, and just being honest with yourself, realizing that if you're going to pursue something that's a lifelong endeavor, then you need to be willing to sacrifice those things at whatever point in your life that might be distracting you, that might be causing stress or things that you can't control. Like, you need to find a way to channel all those negative energies into your passion, into like what you want to do.
Would you say you made the right? I mean, obviously, I think you made the right decision for sure. But are there any times that you've ever second guessed it?
There are times where I'm like, heck, I'm not sure if I could keep grinding this hard for 10 straight years. But then, anytime I ever feel down about the grind or that it's not paying back what I need in order to survive or in order to provide for my family. I just always realized to myself that I just need to work harder. I just need to try harder. I just need to not think about those kind of things and spend that time and energy into work, into doing what I do best. And from there, it always just works out. It's always just worked out. Any rough times that I've had throughout this journey, I've just put my head down, not let those negative thoughts faze me, and eventually it's always worked out. And I have faith that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, because in those cases it always does work out, and I trust that for sure.
I agree. I mean, I'm like with the show right now, like I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling like there's been a lot of things that led me to where I'm at right now as well. And I haven't been the most confident person all the time, but like you said, putting your head down and having faith and just doing it, never know what can happen.
Exactly. And it's always important to just constantly challenge yourself in whatever you're pursuing. Try and find that person to look up to, in whatever trade you're trying to pursue, and whatever craft, whatever career, find somebody to strive to be. And then once you get to that level, you find somebody better. You try to strive to get to that level, and then go to the next step. And then it's just never about plateauing, never about trying to stay happy in your lane. You just constantly gotta keep going further, pushing yourself further, and constantly putting time into your self-education and into investing in yourself.
So who would you say would be somebody that you look up to right now in art?
I would say I'm a fan specifically of Art Acolyte. He hasn't been on or around the scene here recently, but he's a talented artist out of California, extremely skilled with his ballpoint pen, just straight basics, and the amount of depth that he achieves in his artwork from just ink, just a ballpoint pen, is incredible to me. And that's always, I've taken some of the things that I've learned just from watching him and his growth, and incorporated it into my artwork in a way that I've been proud, to call my own.
So yeah, and with art, I mean, it's really like the represent, like, how would you say, like, I mean, because there's artists that their artwork's too close to the original artist, so how could you distinguish your own if you're gathering an influence from an artist?
That's a tough question, I would say, specifically for artists that are first starting out. I mean, obviously you need to find the type of art that you're trying to create. You need to learn more about it. You need to, do the research and do your homework as far as what you like from this artist, what you don't like, But I would say never to trace, never to try and copy somebody's specific art, but actually, use it as a reference, print it out. Maybe take like 4 or 5 of your favorite artists' pieces, try and combine them in a sense, just taking like an aesthetic different, like a scene with a character that you really like, and yada yada yada, and don't create that with intent to sell it. Create it with intent to learn from it, to grow from it, and build on it, keep building on it, whether it takes 5, 10, 20, 50 hours, a few months, whatever. Keep building on it until you can say for sure that it's your own, that you've manipulated it enough so that you're proud to, show off, and that you're not trying to rip off someone else's art. You're actually just interpreting it in a different way and making it unique to yourself.
I agree with that. So what you're saying is like have 5 different artists, and then with those 5 different artists, maybe grab, like, how you say your art's in layers. Maybe grab one type of different layer from that one, and that one, and then combine them and try to make it into something your own.
Yes, exactly. So like One thing I focused on in my first few years was specifically learning as many different art styles as I possibly could. So the first style that I picked up was pop art. You know, I loved pop art colors. I loved how much it popped, you know, using mainstream media type stuff and just throwing, you know, an off the wall twist to it with just color splashes that really enticed me to bring that onto my skill set. And then moving on from there, I love doing comic art. Comic art was great, obviously, from starting as a child, but I personally am a big fan of comics. I'm personally a big fan of, you know, all the superheroes, all the Marvel, DC characters and stuff like that. So I went to work, you know, trying to create as many comic characters as I possibly could from a ton of different artists, but, you know, like using maybe like armor from one artist, doing a different mashup, you know, not trying to brand it with all the same stuff that an original as the original artist had, but kind of just taking like a, you know, a piece of armor with a scene from another artist, but then throwing in like a twist of like pop art randomly in it, and then combining just the different styles that you want to learn and pursue. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I think everybody could be really happy with that answer. I mean, you're giving people a lot of insight about art in general, not just your art, and what it takes to create these masterpieces that you create.
Sure.
Do you have any of like your metal engraved ones that you could possibly show?
I do have a brushed metal print that I haven't modded yet, or I haven't embellished, but this is brushed metal, back of it's white. Has a good thickness to it, and it has a real good reflection in the light, and especially like in natural daylight, it gives it a real nice sheen. So what I like to do on top of these is do an embellishment with ink or sometimes with acrylic. And here's a recent one that I embellished with acrylic and ink, and then epoxy coated. See, can you see that? So same thing, white back, same thickness, and I don't know. That glare is pretty scandalous with the epoxy. But then, as always, it's UV reactive as well. The entire thing. And that's something I've been doing recently. That it's new and it's fun, and I like the metal doesn't absorb the mediums or the paint as much as like canvas or wood does. So all the colors really pop on it, and then you still have the reflective sheen that pops out from behind it.
How much would you charge for something like that?
For that one specifically, it's 16 by 24. I charge probably around about between 185 and 250 for those sizes.
And have you ever thought about, like, I mean, obviously you have enough artwork to do like a gallery show or an exhibition. Have you ever thought about doing that in Kansas City? Do you have any options for that?
I have, and I actually I did a few murals downtown in the art district of Kansas City, and I every month during the summer and during the nice weather months, they do First Fridays here in Kansas City, and in my first 2 years I was out there every Friday hustling. You know, after I got the mural, got to do the mural over across the street from Grinders. They allowed me to hang up my artwork. It was somewhat of a consignment store where you know, artists can rent a space from the building and you know, put up whatever they're trying to sell, and then on First Fridays when people are walking through the city, they can stop and kind of see everything. And I was able to show my artwork there every First Friday, and that's kind of where I started. I haven't these past few months just because I've been so busy in with other endeavors, but I do enjoy doing it. I look forward to doing more.
And have you ever thought about doing like an interactive exhibit?
Well, how do you mean?
Like when we were talking when me and Carl were at your house, you were talking about like maybe like a maze or a labyrinth or something like that.
Yeah, that was something. If I would have had enough time to properly work out the details, I'd like to do in the future somewhat like a maze where at a music festival per se, like Dance Festopia, which is what we have out here in Kansas City, having a maze where it's lit up, all the walls are lit up with different artists, different pieces, creations that they've made that the artists have actually embellished themselves, you know, and made blacklight reactive, have UV lights throughout the maze, and have it go up, down, left, right, you know, kind of just a fun experience. Maybe have some of the maze mirrors, you know, that kind of skew your perspective. I thought that would be a neat art installation one day, and hope to be able to create it.
That'd be a psychedelic utopia.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to.
And you definitely get lost in something like that.
Yeah.
And what goes into like a design for one of your pins? Like for the people like that would be trying to get into like pin design, like you see on different forums or groups, and you have people asking like, how do they find a pin producer and all that stuff? Like, how did you get involved in creating pins?
Pins, I started doing pins about 2 years ago. It was actually recommended to me by a few folks, but most importantly from the guy who creates all of the vectors from my artwork, Tyler Dombrowski. He's been a great friend over the years, and he encouraged me to pursue pins, and he just so happened to have the skill to turn my canvas creations into a digital vector, which is what we use to then from that stage, coloring it, deciding on the variants, and then from there turning it over to the factories to have produced and have manufactured. He's kind of who got me into it. And then from there, obviously, the love from the scene has just been amazing, and I enjoy doing it myself now. It's actually helped with my just day-to-day painting skills and how I think, how I create things, how I color things. It's actually been a huge help because I was never big on coloring before. Before I started creating full-time, I was more of bold outline with one or two colors, the monochromatic type of fan, and then I kind of just went crazy with colors after I started out.
Yeah, it's like your Sherbert variant, like
Yeah.
it's just full of color, and that's like one of the variants. Yeah, right there, the Giggler-nade. Yeah, like that variant right there. Like it's just that compared to like your black and white Rumin8 logo.
Yeah, I don't have that one on there.
well, no, but it's on the screen right now under the on air. So
Perfect.
so that's like monochromatic as compared to the Sherbert variant, and yeah, that's like a huge like growth. I mean, if you only went from 2 colors to what you're doing now, that's amazing.
Yeah, no, I still love doing. Hold on one second. I still love doing black and white creations, but now I've enjoyed turning them into UV reactive and glow in the dark creations. I'm not sure if you have access to any of the recent ones I've created, but this is a new one that's just a work in progress. That'll be completely UV reactive when it's finished, and all the like white will actually glow a different color. So I'll probably make all of the white in this one glow maybe purple or blue, and then on top of that do the outlines of it in green glow or green UV. So even when you're looking at it in natural light or in the daytime, it's just black and white. You wouldn't know there's anything else to it until you hit it with the UV light, or you waited till the end of the night and it just kept glowing on you.
Have you ever seen stuff like that before, or was that your own idea? Because that's pretty brilliant.
Yeah, I've never personally seen anyone do the glow in the dark. Well, I guess I have seen one guy I can't remember, it's Cairo, or I think it starts with a C. But it's been shared all over Facebook. He creates like pieces for like Disney where it shows like a natural light or a forest or something, and then as the lights transition to night, there's still like an underlying animal in it that you didn't see before. I did see his stuff right when I was first starting out, but other than that, I haven't seen any other glow in the dark and UV reactive artists doing anything that I do.
Wow. So you are truly one of a kind then.
I try to be.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, we just went through a ton of stuff for everybody pretty quickly. Is there anything else that you want to say? Like,
No, I mean, at the end of the day, I appreciate everyone's support. I mean, I wouldn't be where I am today being able to, take care of my family, my newborn daughter. We wouldn't be able to do this without you guys. And obviously, we understand that, and we greatly appreciate everyone's love, everyone's support, everyone's assistance with bumps, shares, not necessarily just having to spend money, but just taking the time to, comment on a post, show some love on a post. That really helps me on the day-to-days, staying motivated, staying inspired. I would say my inspiration greatly comes from the fans.
And I'm gonna pull up your Rumin8 KC page real quick so they know where to find you as well. And that isn't as big as it needs to be, but that's fine. So Rumin8 right here, it's at Rumin8 KC. Scrolling for you. Right here, I already liked it. That's where you should hit like. Right next to it says following. When you like it, go inside of here, and I mean, if you have default, it's going to show up when it wants to show up, but if you hit see first, whatever Rumin8, aka, Tommy, aka Rumin8 posts, it's going to show up first in your news feed. So if any of this interested you, hit see first under following, and you will have direct access to what you're looking for, all things Rumin8. Yeah, and I don't know, thank you for everything, Tommy. I really appreciate it.
Sure. Thanks for having me, man.
I don't know, I think that a lot of people are going to know more about you and your artwork and what really goes into it, because I didn't know that there was 3 layers to your canvases. I mean, obviously I knew they were UV reactive and they were glow in the dark, but when you showed me that black and white one and you told me that you can make another layer a different color and it'll only show up once you put that light on it, that's pretty amazing. Like, I never would have known anything like that until we had this conversation.
Thank you. Yeah, and I mean, I encourage anyone who might have some questions, feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to join the group and, make a post asking questions. And if I'm not available at the time, I'll make sure to follow up with everyone as soon as I can.
Okay. Well, that's Tommy Marrero, Rumin8, Kansas City, Missouri. Follow him at Rumin8 KC. Join his Facebook group, Ruminating Phantasms. And everyone have a really good day. I am on the spot. This is I am on the spotlight, and we are gonna send off.
Later, guys.